Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new episode of the Game Shelf. It's me, ya boy Luis, back again after an entire month of absence. You know, it's been a very busy month, I got to say. Final projects, final exams, and just the entire college stuff, all the responsibilities. What I want to say is that if you guys have responsibilities, just do them first and then you can just go have fun. But anyway, we're not here to talk about myself, we are here to talk about games. So what do you say we begin now? You know, last review I left something very clear, and that's that I adore the Yakuza series. It's one of my absolute favorite ones, and I want to review every single game in the series, but one step at a time. Today I want to talk about a game series I love maybe a little bit more than Yakuza, and that's the Fire Emblem series. And I am not overreacting, guys. I really love the series. I really love the series. If you're a Nintendo fan, chances are you're definitely familiar with the Fire Emblem series. It's a series that started as Japan exclusive with a tactical game called Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, which ended up selling fairly well, which caused Nintendo to create a few new games through the next few years. However, in 2001, the Nintendo GameCube saw the release of Super Smash Bros. Melee, which introduced two new characters to the Western audiences, Marth and Roy. This caused the Fire Emblem series to get exposure in the West, raising a lot of curiosity for the games themselves and becoming the main reason you most likely know the series for. However, there was one final push that helped to localize the games. Intelligent Systems had already released a game called Advance Wars, which works in a similar manner to Fire Emblem. Needless to say, it became a success in the West. With these two events, Intelligent Systems decided from that date onward to localize the Fire Emblem games worldwide. For the most part. And the one I want to talk about today is Shadow Dragon for the Nintendo DS, a remake of the Famicom game I mentioned previously. Why did I choose to review this one? Well, Marth is the protagonist, he's most likely the first Fire Emblem character you have known. You played Melee, you can unlock Roy unless you unlock Marth first. He's a really good boy, he's the face of the series, easy as that, let's begin. The story takes place in the continent of Arcanea, where many years ago there was a war against the Dull Empire, led by the Shadow Dragon Medeus. When all hope seemed lost, a young man called Anri surfaced from the kingdom of Altea. Using the divine sword Falchion, he killed the Shadow Dragon, ending the war, bringing peace to the world. Yay! Fast forward 100 years, and Arcanea finds itself once again in the flames of war, due to Medeus being resurrected by an evil wizard named Garnev. During this conflict, we meet a young boy named Marth, a descendant of Anri and the prince of the kingdom of Altea, whose home gets invaded by an ally and is forced to leave his land, hiding himself in an island for a few years. Once the time comes, Marth takes his small army to reclaim his homeland, recover the divine sword Falchion, and slay Medeus along with Garnev. Simply put, it's a story of taking back your kingdom and defeating evil. It's really basic, and compared to other titles, it's really lackluster. But I don't have an issue with that. The original game released in 1990, and it stays true to its original plot. It's a basic story that is told in an entertaining way. The only new things that were added is a prologue to tell you how Marth's kingdom fell, and the other are extra chapters that you unlock by doing certain criterias, but we will get to that later. Fire Emblem is a tactical role-playing game with turn-based battle. You will assign commands to your units, and once you're done you'll see the enemy take action against you. In the games, you take control of an entire army of soldiers through grid-based maps, as you're in charge of planning strategies to lead them to victory. The objectives tend to vary between games and chapters, but usually the main objective is to wipe out the enemy team and seize certain point. Once you command your unit to attack or it gets attacked by an enemy, the game will transition into a battle sequence, but you get no input in this, as the outcome of the battle is always determined by the power of your unit and the chances of landing a hit, and on some occasions a critical hit. These, however, depend entirely on many different factors. The terrain of the map, the weapon you're using, the weapon triangle, a system that works as rock, paper, scissors, and of course, the stats of the unit. To increase this, your unit will have to accumulate experience points to level up, and it might improve in different areas. Once the unit reaches level 10 and beyond, you can use a special item to promote the unit to a newer and more powerful class, granting it a major boost of stats and sometimes access to new weapons, allowing them to have more flexibility in combat and giving you different approaches in your strategies. What has to be Shadow Dragon's most interesting feature is its Reclass System, The game offers over 20 different classes for you to choose from, and you can change them anytime you want before a battle begins. Say, if one of your units got different growths you never saw coming, you can always reclass it to make it take better advantage of a class's niche. And this can even encourage you to try different builds, boosting a lot the replay value of the game. Be extremely wary of one thing. Fire Emblem took a very important mechanic from real life, and that's permadeath. You see how when you die in real life, you never come back? Yeah, like that? Well, it's the same in Fire Emblem. If a unit HP falls to 0, you can pretty much kiss goodbye to it forever, unless you restart the chapter. However, you can always increase the number of your soldiers by recruiting them on the battlefield. Some of them will join automatically, while others require different tasks, such as visiting a village or talking to them with a specific character. As for Marth himself, well, he's the only unit who can seize a throne, so if he dies, it's game over, so you have to restart the chapter whenever you like it or not. But back on topic. The permadeath brings a very questionable mechanic in Shadow Dragon, and that's the guidance chapters. Special chapters where you can always recruit a new unit, but to access this, you need to have less than 15 units in your army. In other words, you must be really bad in the game, or just deprive your units of their weapons and send them to die, making it impossible to recruit every single character in one playthrough. And let me tell you, Shadow Dragon has a massive roster of characters. As for the units themselves, I think here's where Shadow Dragon's biggest offender lies, and that's a major lack of character development. Yeah, for sure, there are some minor exceptions, maybe a few conversations in and there, but even so, that development is kept to a minimal and you won't really feel much empathy or care for some of your units. When I see Shadow Dragon's roster, I don't see characters, I only see a portrait and a name. I don't have much issue whenever one of them dies, because I just don't care. And as a remake, it really feels like a missed opportunity. Okay, but now, to give some credit to the game, I find this difficulty to be really fair. There are instances in which things can get very tense, but as long as you play your cards accordingly, Shadow Dragon overall should be a very pleasing and satisfying experience. And I just have to applaud the tutorials, which never break the pace of the game and are very easy to understand. One extra positive point I have to give is that most maps have a save feature halfway in, which is really convenient. Either if you want to take a break or one of your units die, you can always reload from those points as many times as you want, making bigger maps less of a drag. And even so, the game has a very fluid pace. Combat between units is fast, if it's not enough you can turn off the animations, or you know, you can just skip the entire enemy turn if you feel like it. Musically speaking, Shadow Dragon's soundtrack is really strong. It remixes a lot of tunes from the original game, and I think the quality adapts very well to the DS's hardware, as it provides a good background to your battles. Sadly, I cannot say the same for the game's visuals. I find them really dull. Shadow Dragon's attempts to go for a more realistic approach with darker and green colors, but ends up feeling very barren in consequence. And the units' mini-models just lack any sort of identity and look exactly the same. Just tell me, can you tell me who of these units is who? Yeah, I thought so. The 3D models on combat between units are okay. I won't give them a hard time because of the DS's capabilities, but they don't truly deliver an impact. The strongest point here has to be the character design. While most of them lack any sort of personality, at least you can set them apart very easily, and are a massive step up from how they look in the original game. And finally, the game has online features where you can access to an online store to buy different weapons and battle other players and... Oh right. Never mind then, I said nothing. All in all, Shadow Dragon is an extremely minimalistic game. It tries to stay true to its original release, while making it more playable for modern standards. It doesn't take too many risks, and because of this, it doesn't shine as much as it should. I think that as a remake, it succeeds in modernizing a very old game, but it could have done much more, and as a Fire Emblem game, it's just fine. Simplicity is not really a bad thing, folks. You want a good comparison? Shadow Dragon is an awful lot like a vanilla ice cream. It's simple, but it's tasty. It might not be everyone's flavor, but it's not necessarily bad. But what if we add more flavor to it? Maybe some strawberries ice cream. Now let's put something here. And we have ourselves Fire Emblem New Mystery of the Emblem. Yeah, I wasn't planning to stop here. There's one last game we gotta look into. Okay, so in Japan, the original release of Shadow Dragon sold fairly well, which granted it a direct sequel on the Super Famicom called Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem, who also got a remake on the Nintendo DS under the name of Fire Emblem New Mystery of the Emblem. But sadly, Shadow Dragon sold so poorly that New Mystery never saw the light of the day outside of Japan. That is, until a bunch of good people decided to take the job of translating the entire game into English and upload it on the internet. Disclaimer, I do not encourage the use of emulators, but Nintendo, you're not giving me much option here. Anyway, let's see how New Mystery improves on Shadow Dragon. The story takes place 2 years after the events of Shadow Dragon. After Marth successfully reclaimed Altea and slayed Medeus, spoilers, Marth reclaims his homeland and kills Medeus, the good guys win, yay! The entire continent of Arcanea gets plunged into war once again, this time by the hand of Emperor Hardin, an old ally that fought next to Marth in the previous war, and he wants to conquer the world. Behind the scenes, the evil wizard Garnev once again plans to resurrect Medeus by kidnapping 4 girls with pure hearts. So, Marth once again rallies his entire army to stop both Hardin and Garnev. Again, it's a story of good versus evil, and the same thing as Shadow Dragon applies. Basic, but it's entertaining. New Mystery goes extra lengths to add more depth into its world. Mechanically speaking, it works exactly as Shadow Dragon does, so there's no point in going through it again. Gameplay is the same, soundtrack is still fantastic, and the pace of the game is smooth. But the visuals actually received an update. I mean, color me surprised, but the aesthetics look much better this time around. And also some portraits were changed to make some characters look more lively. They look much better than before, and look more expressive and vibrant. This Marth looks tremendously better than huge chin Marth. New Mystery brought new stuff to the table, and one of them is casual mode. Yeah, you thought Awakening was the first to introduce this controversial mechanic? Nope, New Mystery did it first. What it does is that when one of your units is defeated in combat, they don't die. They just retreat and come back the next chapter safe and sound. Except for Marth, of course. It actually sparked some controversy within the fans, but I see this as a welcoming addition to the series. For starters, it's optional, making the original challenge of Permadeath still prevalent. And second, I see this as a good way to introduce new players to the series. It can still manage to show them the core mechanics of Fire Emblem and maybe encourage them later on to try classic mode. But the main selling point is the inclusion of an avatar character, a unit you create before starting a game that you can customize to your liking. Gender, physical appearance, classes and background. Because of the Avatars edition, they expanded a little bit onto the story with guiding chapters, and thank you, they fixed the guiding chapters here! Say goodbye to sacrificing your units, all you have to do now is beat certain maps under a determined number of turns. It's so forgiving, you'll play all the guiding chapters in this game by just playing the game naturally. What I do dislike about the Avatar, however, is its role in the story. I don't mind the guiding chapters, they were designed to emphasize the Avatar. But in the main story, the Avatar just steals the spotlight from Marth, and it ends up feeling like the Avatar did most of the job, making Marth slightly less of a character. And the personality of the Avatar is so... Phew. If I had to sum it up, it would be training, Marth, training to protect Marth. And as a character that is supposed to represent the player, the Avatar is as interesting as a plank of wood, and its obsession with Marth is tiring. And yes, I did said personality because here's another thing New Mystery did right, and that's adding base conversations. A mechanic where your units can socialize and grant you items that can temporarily boost stats. And this attempt to go further and explore the personality of a character. Some of them, actually most of them, are pretty basic and fail to give an insight. But there are cases in which the combos are genuinely good and help to give more character to the faces you saw in Shadow Dragon, and even to the new faces you'll be seeing here. And it's an effort I appreciate. So, to sum it up, New Mystery improved on what Shadow Dragon did in terms of story, content and quality. What does wrong is reusing a lot of maps from its predecessors and how the Avatar is handling the narrative. But in the end, it's a much better game than Shadow Dragon, and overall a fantastic experience. And if I have to give a final verdict, the entire Arcanea series is good for what it is. Intelligent Systems did a good work to bring a balanced experience, making newcomers find some joy in its minimalistic design that can push them to try other games in the series, and because of its random nature and fast-paced gameplay, you can get an incentive to replay the games to try different units and strategies. And you know, for DS games, they're great. And with that folks, I hope you had an enjoyable time and that perhaps I pushed you to try the Fire Emblem series. And do not forget, I wish you an excellent day, today and tomorrow. And take care. Oh, what the hell? It expired last month. Oh, God. I don't feel so good. I think I'm just gonna take a rest. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining in this video and waiting an entire month. If you want to keep supporting the channel, I'll really appreciate if you could drop a like or subscribe or recommend the channel to a friend who is into video games, something like that. I also made a Twitter account so you can follow me on social media and I can interact more with the fans. Anyways, thank you so much for your support guys, and remember, take care.